So this is a short wee video about predefined functions. Now these might be a wee 1 or 2 mark question. Remember the SQA guidelines said that they could ask anything essentially if it's 1 or a 2 marker. Okay, so this would fit in that category. Now predefined functions, it says here, is basically already built into the program. Okay, so it saves you a lot of time actually creating a function. It's already been written, already been tested and documented as well. Okay, so the 3 you need to know, and again you'd be writing your answer a set. Pretty much you'd write it in a programming language. It might be SQARL, or you might use Python depending on what language that you do it in. Okay, so these examples are using Python. So you've got random, round and length. Okay, so if I look at the length one, okay, so the line with the 2 brackets is basically just calculates the length of the string. Okay, so the string might have spaces in it, might have punctuation marks there, they all count as 1 in terms of when you're calculating the length of something. Okay, so what you would have is you would have len for length, open bracket. You might have the name of a variable that contains a string, or you might actually have a string that you've typed in. Okay, so everything here, if you count it all, it's 48. Right, so spaces, punctuation marks, numbers, they all take 1 character size. Here's an example in which it's asking you, well, enter the string. So you would type in a message, so you might type in hello, and then it would print hello, and then it would print the length of hello, which would be 5. Okay, so length is shortened to len, and what you put in the brackets, it's either a variable or an actual string, and it just counts the number of characters that are in it. Next one there is, I wouldn't worry too much about what this is down here. It's just a round function, so it's something that you do in maths all the time, you round something. So what happens here is, again, it's like when you have the name of the function, this time it isn't shortened to anything, it's just called round, and you either have a number and you have a comma, and the number after the comma is how many places you round it to. So if it's a 1, so this is pi. If it's 1, it's just rounded to 3.1. If it's 2, it's to 2 decimal places, 3 to 3 decimal places. And it's like length as well, in that it doesn't need to be an actual number you type in. It might be a variable in which you fill in with a number. So you've asked the user to enter a number, it's then saved into the variable, and then you basically round whatever's within this variable. Okay, 1, 2, 3 or 4. Okay, so that is the round one. And last but not least, this predefined function is random, and this randomly generates a number. You tell it to start and end values, and it randomly generates a number between that. Okay, so what this is saying is there's a variable called lottery. This is probably the hardest one to remember, because you've got this function that's random, and then this rand int just basically means it's going to generate a random integer, so that's a whole number. In this case it's going to be between 1 and 49. This one here is between 1 and 6, because it's a 6-sided dice. And what happens is a random number between 1 and 6 is generated, saved into dice, and then it's basically outputted with this wee message saying the row of the dice is whatever that random number is. Okay, so again, 3 examples. It's something I would maybe write down a few times just to get yourself used to it. I would say the random one is probably the trickiest one to remember, just because it's got 2 bits to it. Okay, so random and it's integers, so you're just going to be asked if anything, it would be a random number they want you to generate. Okay, and remember in one of the previous examples they're talking about storing random numbers in an array, something along that line, so they might ask you about random. Certainly by the other guidelines it seems to be that they want you to fill up an array or use an array and use random numbers. So they might afterwards say write a line in Python or write a line in any programming language, and so there's some examples there. Okay.